And Bitcoin hitting an all-time high today.
Bitcoin has topped $10,000 for the first time ever.
Bitcoin is up more than 1,000% this year. It's gained 55% just in November.
This is probably the most important invention since the internet.
Wow, welcome back. You've likely heard the term Bitcoin appear more and more in headlines this past year. And just earlier this week, NBC News reported it reached a value of $11,000.
That made such big news. But what exactly does it even all mean? The world of cryptocurrency, or a digital form of money secured by crypto internet technology, is about to get complicated as it gets. So let's see if we can't break it all down for you.
Bitcoin is like your debit card. It's a way to pay for goods and services electronically, online and off. Now, imagine if your debit card only stored its own kind of digital currency. Using a sophisticated encryption system, that's what Bitcoin does. To get Bitcoin, you can buy it or receive it in exchange for goods and services, just like traditional money. But unlike cash, you cannot hold it, you cannot hand it to a cashier at the store. It doesn't work like that. You can keep Bitcoin in a digital wallet, which you can access on your computer or your smartphone. You can spend it just like you spend any money, but only if the party you're paying accepts it.
And that's a real problem for Bitcoin. It's a push to enter the consumer and marketplace. It's been a slow one, and outside of individual purchases, lots of mediums still don't accept it. Today, more than half a decade since its inception, Bitcoin is just starting to find a diversity of uses. But over the last few months, increased momentum and wider attention to the currency has pushed Bitcoin toward an entirely new market: real estate. You see it in some restaurants and in some retail. Now Bitcoin is buying into real estate. Over the summer, a Sotheby's agency in Austin was behind the first single-family home sale in Texas involving a cryptocurrency.
So we knew that, Bitcoin's cryptocurrency, it's like any other currency. It has an exchange rate. It can be exchanged for US dollars.
Meanwhile, in Lower Manhattan, one developer is converting this old rental building into new condos. He has several buyers who want to pay in Bitcoin, and he wants to keep the Bitcoins.
I think I'll be able to use it both personally and as a developer, but I think it'll become a long-term means to make payment.
Scholl says that in a hot market like Manhattan, accepting Bitcoin gives him a competitive edge over other sellers.
You try to always work and get one extra edge over someone else, and we think that cryptocurrency and offering that to our buyers is certainly an edge.
And Bitcoin real estate is a relatively recent endeavor, but Bitcoin consumerism is far from new.
Well, to illustrate just how widespread Bitcoin usage is in the U.S., let's take a look at a time-lapse heat map here from coinmap.com. Since 2008, nearly 11,000 Bitcoin-friendly businesses and ATMs have popped up all around the U.S. and Canada. At this point, it begs the question, why are all these people using a currency they can only spend in certain places? Well, the answer is likely privacy.
When you use dollars to make a purchase, if you aren't using cash, your transaction ultimately routes through a bank or a credit card company. Bitcoin essentially cuts out the middleman, transferring funds directly from one person to the other without requiring personal information. That means the transaction is virtually anonymous. Instead of a bank monitoring the activity, a massive network around the world keeps track of every transaction on a communal balance sheet.
Anybody selling?
And just like other currencies, investors can buy and sell Bitcoin purely to make money off the fluctuating exchange rate. More and more people these days are treating Bitcoin as an investment, and you can understand why when you look at how much the price has increased, over 1,000% in just the last few years.
Now, the value is interesting, but with all of its potential, Bitcoin is not without its own risks and controversy. Just a few years ago, the cryptocurrency found itself at the center of a federal investigation for its connection to the black market. It was supposed to be the future of money, but Bitcoin had a dark side. It fueled the Silk Road, a notorious online drug market.
Back then, criminals were operating under the impression that Bitcoin was an untraceable currency, and law enforcement would never be able to figure this out.
But eventually, Bitcoin led the feds right to the site's kingpin, 29-year-old Ross Ulbricht, now serving life in prison.
We could see these 4 transactions come out of Ross Ulbricht's account.
Many thought Ross Ulbricht's downfall marked the end of the digital currency craze, too.
There was a significant sell-off. I think the future of digital currency is bright.
Attorney Marco Santori says Bitcoin is still more reliable than some foreign currencies. And some newer forms of technology allow you to not only buy things, but create a virtual contract with the seller that enforces itself.
This is probably the most important invention since the internet.
That's quite a statement, most important invention since the internet, but it's really one of the newest things that have come up since the inception of the internet way back when. Let's get some insight here. Practical usage of Bitcoin. We're joined by tech CTO and cryptocurrency asset manager Joe Taveras. Joe, welcome to Local 4 and help kind of an old guy like me understand Bitcoin. But it's at $11,000 right now. I watch all the financial shows. Everyone's talking about it. What does that really mean, though, being at $11,000? It's worth so much because people are using it so much?
Well, it's not necessarily worth $11,000. Bitcoin operates on what's called the greater fool theory, which you're assuming that a greater fool is going to come along and buy it at a higher price. Beyond that, a Bitcoin costs $11,000, but you can actually buy a percentage of a Bitcoin for, I think, $2 is the minimum that you can come in with.
Why would you want to do that?
Well, the goal is to obviously accumulate as much as possible as the price rises. So you buy in the dips and accumulate it and sell it when it gets high.
At this point, is it kind of stabilizing, or is it still a big gamble?
No, it's kind of musical chairs right now. We hear the music play for a couple days. Bitcoin's $11,000, and then it drops to $9,000, and the music stops, and then the music starts up again, and so on and so forth.
The one thing I've been interested in reading is that it cuts out the middleman, no credit card company. So it's you and the other users and the other investors, but what about fraud? What about hacking?
Right, so the way Bitcoin works, if I give you a dollar has a serial number on it. It's unique. There's not another serial numbered dollar with the same number on it. I can't give it to somebody else. It's your dollar now. Bitcoin works in the same way in that the entire network that runs the Bitcoin wallets is actually going to calculate the transaction and log it into a distributed ledger. So everybody who's on the Bitcoin network has a copy that says, I gave you 1 Bitcoin.
Okay.
At that point, you can't really do like cooking the books or keeping a second set of books, which that's a lot of financial crime.
But you jumped in on this early, and you've kind of weathered the ups and downs, and now it's at a big high. You're turning this into a business.
Something like that, yeah. I've got some connections with Detroit Venture Capital, and I'm helping people, manage their funds with that. So,
meaning, if I wanted to start a business or buy a building, I can try to do this to try to earn some more money.
Yeah, absolutely. There's myriad ways you can do it. There's actually a few derivative coins that, for instance, allow you to use your hard drive space as part of a network.
Okay.
And other people will store their files on your hard drive in an encrypted fashion, and they will pay you in a coin.
Okay. But you're the expert on this, so it'd be easier to come to you to kind of see all this, plain as day, because it's kind of hard to imagine all these things happening. Are more people coming to you to either invest or to use it?
Yeah, in the last 3 months or so, I've had a lot of people ask me all about it, from how do I buy it, where do I buy it, is it safe, is it legal, lots of things.
But it is legal.
Yeah, we're in kind of a honeymoon phase right now. Any new technology that comes out, the government doesn't necessarily clamp down on until it becomes super disruptive. Like net neutrality is kind of a big thing now, but it's always been there.
Right. Capital gains on it, though, if you cash out?
Yeah. It works just like the stock market in that regard. You file the appropriate tax form, and you get taxed at, I think, 20% for capital gains. So.
Okay. Bitcoin, do you agree with the expert on TV who said it was the biggest thing since the internet?
The technology underlying it is actually really impressive. You've got companies like IBM and Ford now looking for blockchain engineers to apply the algorithms to their business models.
So they're jumping in to the structure of it all and everything.
Yeah. I think you're going to see some really cool applications come out over the next couple of years from the bigger companies. And that's not to say that's the only place that those are going to come from. because, like, for example, Ethereum, one of the more recognized coins besides Bitcoin, was actually developed by a teenager.
And which one is that?
Ethereum.
Ethereum?
Yeah, it was developed by Vitalik Buterin. He's a Canadian guy. He was, I think, 19 at the time.
And how is that doing now?
I believe it's like almost $500.
Is that right? So it's continuing to grow?
Yep.
Yeah, very good. Joe Tavares. So Bitcoin started like at a penny, and here we are at 11,000 bucks.
Yep.
And you're in there for the long haul, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Joe Tavares, thanks for the expert advice, guys. Back to you. Pretty fascinating stuff on Bitcoin. Andrew, right up your alley. We also want to continue the discussion on Bitcoin with you online.
That's right.
Sean.
Yeah, click on Detroit.com, as Sean was saying, to sort of join the discussion. Also, our Facebook page, WDIV Local 4.
Really interesting stuff. I mean, this is an emerging form of currency, and I think that we've got a lot to learn here.
At least to monitor and observe its ups and downs. Not necessarily jumping in if you're a little bit hesitant about it, but at least learn more about it.